right there on top of the moon. We could sit and do nothing. I wish we were bold to just fly away. I don't wanna care.
So today I want to talk about books that are quite popular on mainstream media, but they disappointed me in some way or another. And the first book I want to talk about is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This book was published in 2009, I think, and it has a Goodreads rating of 3.95 and an Amazon rating of 4 out of 5. And the opinions on it are quite differing, and understandably so. Gillian Flynn, I really enjoy her books because she has this ability to make the readers feel what the main characters of the book are feeling. And when I was reading this book, throughout the reading, I felt the despair and the claustrophobia that the main characters must have felt. So it was really entertaining, and I thoroughly enjoyed it up until I realized who the killer is. And then I was like, so the story is about a woman named Libby Day who's living in Kansas City, Missouri, and she's in her 30s. And when she was 6 years old, she witnessed the murders of her mother and two older sisters. And the prime accused in those murders was her older brother, and currently he's serving his sentence. There is a group of people who are convinced that her older brother Ben was innocent of the crimes, and they try to convince her, and she has enough doubt in her mind to then conduct her own set of interviews to figure out who the killer is. Now, I can't tell you what disappointed me in the book unless I tell you who the killer is. So if you plan to read the book and you don't wish to know, then please move on to the next part of the video. If you're okay with knowing who the killer is, then please continue. So we find out at the end of the book that there are two killers. I won't tell you who the first killer is. The second killer is a hitman hired by the matriarch of the family because they are under crippling debt, and she feels that if he comes in and kills her, then the children would have a better chance at life. So I can understand why the author made that choice, because I guess she wanted to show what crippling debt can do to a person and how claustrophobic it can get, I guess. However, because I have read a lot of crime novels and I've grown up on Agatha Christie and on Sherlock Holmes, I feel like it's a cop-out when an author introduces a character in the last 30 pages and says, here is your killer, right? Because the whole charm of reading mystery books is to figure out who the killer is using the clues that are given to you in the book. And then in this case, you are robbed of that. As usual, Gillian Flynn's books are very entertaining and very well written. So it's not a bad book, but it's just disappointing. The next book that I want to talk about is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a very popular book, and it was first published in 2019. It has a Amazon ratings of 4.6 and a Goodreads rating of 4.3. So it's a very well-loved book, and I was very excited to read it. But when I finished it, I was a bit underwhelmed, and I was wondering why people enjoyed it so much, and I was kind of being rude about it until I realized that I was never the target audience for this book. This is a young adult novel, and those novels are written for people between the ages of 12 and 18, and I was that age decades ago. So understandably, I was a bit underwhelmed by the book. And when I thought about it, I realized when I was that age, I was reading Nancy Drew, and the plot holes in this book are nothing compared to the plot holes in Nancy Drew's. So the story is about a girl called Pippa who's living in UK, and she's in her final year of school, And a few years ago, a girl in her community, the community that she lives in, was murdered, and the prime suspect was the victim's boyfriend. But Pippa is convinced that he's innocent, and he was innocent. So she starts a series of interviews with the people in and around her on the pretext of it being the topic for her final project, like the murder being the topic for her final project. It's not a bad book, and the mystery itself is also not illogical. However, I feel if you're in your 30s and if you have read a lot of crime novels, you might not find it as stimulating and maybe should read something more age appropriate. Another book that disappointed me was Alphabet Soup for Lovers by Anita Nair. This book has a Goodreads rating of 3.55 and an Amazon rating of 3.9. The story is about two women. One of them is an older lady called Gomati, who's a cook, and she has this inherent love for cooking, and she talks about her favorite food items in alphabetical order. That's why it's called Alphabet Soup for Lovers. I loved Gomati's story, thoroughly enjoyed each food item that she talked about. And if you're from Tamil Nadu or Kerala, or your ancestors are from Tamil Nadu or Kerala, you will find this book nostalgic, as it would remind you of your grandmother's cooking or your parents' cooking. So yeah, I really enjoyed Gomati's side of the story. Then the second main character is a woman named Lena, and Lena is who Gomati works for. So Gomati is Lena's cook. Lena's story is mainly about her dissatisfaction with her life, mainly her marriage, and how she feels attracted to this superstar who has come to live in a cottage that she owns. So her story is mainly about infidelity. Now, I have no problem when infidelity is one of the main themes of a book. In fact, two of my favorite classics are based on the same theme. Tolstoy's Anna Karenina and Gustav Flaubert's Madame Bovary. I hope I said his name correctly. At no point in either books is there any glorification of infidelity. In fact, they talk about the moral degradation that happens when you're in a situation like that. Whereas in this book, there is a lot of romanticization of cheating, which I did not enjoy. And why this book bothered me so much is because I loved Gomati's side of the story so much, and all the while I was reading Lena's story, I felt what a waste of a wonderful story. And I even kind of wished Lena was a side character so that I could enjoy the book more. Gomati's story is really nice, so maybe you can read this book for her story. Anyway, thank you for listening to me talk. Thank you for watching the video. See you next time. Bye.